Hello fellas, this is teacher Paulo Gilberto coming up to talk about part 2, interacting as the pilot. Just as a kind of a review, what I'm going to do here is let's step back and talk a little bit about part 1 from the first step, in fact, the first video that I shot. It is there on my YouTube channel. So in the first part, the ANAC examiner will set the context. For instance, there will be like the phase of the flight, the airport, and what you have to do. For instance, you are approaching JFK Airport. So you see, phase of the flight and the airport. And what you have to do, you are going to listen to the ATC and do the readback. Remember your call sign and Act 1, 2, 3. If then the examiner will play like the ATC, and the ATC will give you some instructions, and you are expected to do the readback. Two things: if you are unsure of the communication, there are two ways to say. So say again to ANAC 1, 2, 3, or direct to the point. Say again, right? Those two are correct. The examiner will play it, and then you do your readback, and remember to use your call sign at the end of your communication. Alright? Then, now it's the second part. Then the examiner will place you in a specific situation. For instance, now a passenger suffers a heart attack. Contact the ATC and state your problem and request suitable assistance. So then, you should behave as in a real flight. So you do this, you make this communication, and you should follow all the radio telephony techniques which are expected, right? So then you make your communication. For example, here you state a passenger has suffered a heart attack and requests, for instance, medical assistance upon landing. Then the examiner will say, okay, so now listen to the ATC again, confirm or clarify. So if the ATC answer or message matches the problem that you stated, you just say affirm, and of course you repeat any kind of instructions that will come along about heading, flight level, or frequency. However, if your problem, for instance, here a passenger has suffered a heart attack, and the examiner says, the HC says, ANAC 1, 2, 3, Roger, confirm a violent passenger or a disruptive passenger on board. So then you need to clarify. So you say, negative, we don't have a violent passenger or an unruly passenger on board. What you have is that the passenger has just suffered a heart attack and requests medical assistance upon landing. Okay? One thing that is important, even when the ATC message is different from your problem, but if the ATC gives you some instructions, for example, there it's about flight level, it's about heading, speed, any kind of a frequency. So you must do the readback, and then you correct the ATC. So if the ATC says ANAC 1, 2, 3, Roger, turn left, heading 350, confirm a violent passenger on board. So you say ANAC 1, 2, 3, turn left turns, and then you say negative. We have a passenger who has suffered a heart attack. We don't have an unruly passenger on board, and request medical assistance upon landing, ANAC 1, 2, 3. So I've seen a lot of pilots when they clarify, when they correct the ATC. So they correct the ATC, but they don't use like all the numbers or the information that was passed. So this is very important. Otherwise, you will be penalized, okay, in your interaction. And then the examiner, ANAC examiner, will say, just to cover the situation, the examiner will say, okay, what did the controller say in this last recording? So we say, okay, the controller acknowledged and asked me to turn right, turn left, descend, squawk, and asked me if a passenger suffered a heart attack on board or if there was a disruptive passenger on board. Again, the question is direct to the point, it's straightforward. The question is, what did the controller say? It's not about you. So it's only you as a controller. So the controller told me, the controller said to me, the controller asked me to confirm, the controller asked me to turn right, left, to squawk. So only the controller part, right? And then we'll move along with the other situations. And remember that there are 5 situations in part 2. This is the longest part of the test. Normally it takes around 12 to 15 minutes to cover part 2, the longest part from the test. And in 2 situations, the examiner will show you the picture. The examiner will not tell you. For example, here, the examiner said, now a passenger has suffered a heart attack, contact the ATC, blah, 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 blah. So the examiner is giving you everything to be used. It's very easy. But there are 2 situations in which the examiner will say like this, okay, so now you have experienced this situation. And I'll show you the situation, the picture, and using the picture, you must develop your communication, all right? So vocabulary is important, and before I forget, be careful, be aware of synonyms. For instance, heart attack, cardiac arrest, landing gear stuck in soft ground, landing gear bogged down, unruly passenger, and disruptive passenger. Any questions? Just let me know. I'm teacher Paulo Gilberto speaking from São Paulo, Brazil. Peace out, guys.